It will show you everything you need to know to keep our family safe.
It all started with Grandma. Death is coming for us because we were never supposed to exist.
Watch out!
Only by embracing death will it pass you by.
Maybe death's not actually coming for our family. Because that would be crazy.
What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the Low Key Cave, Keyshawn Imes YouTube page, aka Mr. Low Key, and we are back with another movie review. Sorry I'm late with my review. I posted been undone this, but I was going to try to do it live. Anyway, Final Destination Bloodlines. Definitely one of my most anticipated horror movies coming out this year as far as just legacy sequels. You know, we've been getting a lot of those. We get Scream, I feel like. Halloween, I think, started that. I think, wasn't it Halloween? I think it was Halloween. Then, you know, we started to get a bunch of legacy sequels as far as sequels that were connected to the original movies. Anyway, this movie ain't really connected to the original movies outside of, you know, certain things with deaths or just even Easter eggs or just certain things in there that's related to other deaths. It is a part of the same universe. They do reference, of course, previous films, not like on some under-nose type shit, but you know that this is part of the same universe as far as Final Destination movies. This is not a reboot or anything like that. This is an ongoing sequel or whatever. With all that being said, this is definitely the better one out of the recent ones. I would say this probably, I like 3. Like, I'm trying to say, is this better than part 3? The problem I got with part 3 is that outside of our main 2 characters that I feel like we follow, everybody else is like these disposable assholes. And I feel like the Final Destination franchise kind of continued that trend after part 3. It got worse. 5, I feel like kind of did something a little bit better, especially with that twist ending that it had, with it kind of setting up the whole thing with it being a prequel. So this is the 6th film in the Final Destination franchise. With that being said, I think I will put it above Final Destination 3 because I feel like it has better characters. The first 2 I feel like were a little bit more, had a more serious tone, but it wasn't too serious. It was serious enough to make you care about the characters that it had in it. Because I feel like those first 2 didn't necessarily have like people that you didn't like. Like, especially the first one, outside of, like, you know, the nigga trying to be a bully, but we actually seemed like we kind of started to like him once he realized some shit was really going on. Part 2 in particular, we had a returning character, and then we had characters like the mom and the son. Like, they wasn't bad people as far as the sequel, and they both, like, the elevator scene, and then the son chasing the bird. It just, those first 2 definitely, to me, stood out as far as being more, having more character-driven storylines where you wanted those characters to make it, and it gave you more edge of the seat as far as not wanting certain things to happen or not wanting death to get them. With all that being said, Final Destination Bloodlines, I feel like kind of captures some of that same essence of those first 2 movies with the characters. With all that being said, it has the silliness too that people probably started to enjoy as far as those later installments, like Final Destination, I would say 4 and even 5, especially 4. 4 went all out with just how extreme can we go with the deaths, fuck the characters, fuck the plot. How extreme can we go with these characters? And with this one, as far as the plot, they try to do something a little different as far as just the whole premise with death, saying, okay, now we got a whole thing setting up where this seems like, I ain't even gonna say this is necessarily the beginning of how it started, but having somebody who escaped death but was able to live throughout years and create generations where they weren't supposed to even have kids, or they kids weren't supposed to have kids and all of that. And it's like death going down that line, and you can kind of see how that might even be connected to other characters from previous films where they parents or grandparents or great-great-parents might have had a situation where they weren't supposed to live, and now death is coming down the line. So I really enjoyed that premise too. Opening scene wise, I would say this is the third best one. This for me the third best one. The roller coaster one is very good too. Nothing is ever going to top Final Destination 2's highway collision scene. Nothing would ever be able to compete with that opening sequence. The plane sequence I feel like is very good, so I'll put that at number 2. But I will put this in number 3. Very good opening sequence, man. Entertaining, I ain't over the top, extreme, and even giving you certain. It's a character in here, a kid in here, where you like. We done had assholes, but this kid in here, man, it's like, yo, and then it's the opening scene, and it's like, oh yeah, go ahead, him. But outside of that, even with the premonition, it seems like setting up it kind of different because this opening sequence, the premonition is this young lady who is actually having a premonition of her grandmother's premonition. And actually she's having a premonition of the incident that her grandmother saved people from. But the thing about it is the premonition her grandmother had of them people actually dying, similar to the other installments of premonitions or whatever. Like I said, they do this kind of different with this young lady having a premonition of her grandmother's premonition. Even going into this, that whole thing with them setting up the characters, this is a good, decent family. People are very decent. You have the sister who's just being a regular sister, one of the characters who plays the sister or cousin or whatever, and she just being the typical nonchalant, uppity cousin or sister or whatever. But overall, this is a very decent family. And the death is after this particular family. It ain't just this family, but it's like, I need to get y'all. Let me go and get y'all out the way now. I got some more families I got to go get. But yeah, death is particularly after this family. And it's like the whole setup with this thing and even them doing certain reveals because I really like the way they took the direction of this as far as the way they set up the deaths. You don't know. They might cut away from a certain character and say you thought it was going to be that character, but actually it's going to be this character. Very good setups. And even with them doing certain reveals in here where it's like characters that are supposed to be connected with this family, nah. It's got certain things where a character might have been adopted or just those type of elements where it's like, oh, so that's how they able to maneuver where, oh, it skipped that one because that person wasn't even supposed to be a part of this family anyway. They not blood related. So we're going to go to this other one because you are blood related, quote unquote, Final Destination Bloodlines. But even with, it's a disturbing death in here. Final Destination ain't really messing me up outside of like I said, the highway collision scene, but it's a death in here in a hospital where it was like, oh, and it didn't stop. It was like, even after the death, the one death happens, it's like, let me add that on, and that's another thing this movie does good, is where it's like you gotta stay prepared. You might think something you might get a whole death sequence, and everything seems like it's calming down, and out of nowhere, oh no, we still ain't done. Boom, somebody else getting knocked off. Like no character I feel like was safe. Even the main character, I feel like, I don't feel like nobody was safe, and that's another thing that I actually enjoy going to this, man. Can we talk about my guy Tony Todd, the legend, Candyman? Damn it, I forgot his name, the actual name in the movie, but I know as far as he's the funeral guy, or whatever. The man, goddamn, I can't think of the name of the guy, man. The people who handle dead people. I'm sorry, y'all, but man, I could not believe not only what the director and what they was able to do with this character, but Tony Todd himself, man, because they showed what they did. They said something where his last couple of lines were just him. Like, they wasn't written or nothing. It wasn't in like the script or anything. He just went off the head or whatever. And it's a very, very powerful scene because we already know, rest in peace of Tony Todd. He passed away. But even, his appearance in here, you could tell because it was, I watched a show called Power, and rest in peace of Charlie Murphy. He had the similar look at him when he was kind of sick or whatever. But rest in peace of Tony Todd, man. He had some lines in here, great lines, man. And it was like, if you want to give him, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, you want to throw him an Oscar for it, it's worth it. I'm telling you, because this the way he said that scene, and you sitting there like that, and he's coming from a place of something real that's going on with him in this scene or whatever. So rest in peace of Tony Todd, man. Very, very powerful scene. Very incredible for what he was able to do with this particular scene. And this franchise going around him, being that he ain't even in none of these movies very long. He in and out, but he is so powerful in the horror world and what he's been able to do with just these short moments in this franchise. But his deliverance, his look, just his presence, man. Rest in peace to Tony Todd. But yes, the deaths in the movie. Like I said, the hospital scene is the one for me. It's definitely the one for me. But once again, we have a lot of off-guard deaths. But when they happen, they like, damn. Final Destination movies, death in particular, as far as being an overall slasher, it's like, if you were supposed to die a certain way, you would definitely rather go out that way than what death has in store for you, because it's very violent. It's on some Jason shit. Like, you know how Jason could just kill you, but he like to go the extra mile where he might rip your goddamn jaw off, or he might just dig through your stomach or your chest. Like, why, bro? Just kill. Do what you gotta do. But like the death in Final Destination is over the top petty, and they don't want you to go like fast. You got to go a little slow. But if you do go fast, it's gonna hurt at first. You're gonna feel that impact. Then you're gonna go. You're gonna feel it. But yes, man. If I had to compare, once again, if I'm comparing this to the other movies, like I said, I feel like those last two was very much over the top. So the gymnasium scene during that last one, I'm like, that one was still kind of good. But this still comes number three. Number three, definitely. I feel like it was still some very unique deaths in those first two. Like I said, the choke out scene in the shower still gets me. That first one where he's strangling, like that still gets me. Part two, come on, man. Collision. The off-guard death of one of our main characters that returned in the second one when she walks into the hospital room trying to save her buddy and it explodes. But if we talking about just deaths that kind of mess with you, it's another interstate scene where they trying to get to the hospital, if I'm not mistaken, where the guy gets impaled, the black guy for living single, as far as part two or whatever. Anyway, though, this comes in number three as far as overall kills and deaths, and I feel like I might even take it up a notch because of the off-guard deaths, because I feel like this did a better job even than I feel like the first one. I feel like the second one, I'm gonna just put it above all of them. I'm gonna just say it. Final Destination 2 is the best out of the franchise for me personally. Even outside of the opening scene, just the plot overall and the characters is the better one for me. So death overall, I might throw this in number 2 and put it over the first one, because I feel like it had a lot of good off-guard deaths, and it had a lot of good creative ones too. So yeah. Overall, though, a great entry to the franchise. I feel like it's able to rejuvenate itself, similar to what Halloween did as far as the first one that they did. The 2018 one, I think, that one, after that. I like Halloween Ends, though. I do. I like they try to switch up certain things. I do. I appreciate what they try to do with that. Even with Scream 5 and 6, as far as being rejuvenized, I feel like they've done a good job, and I feel like this is going into the line of those legacy sequels as far as in horror, who've been able to do good jobs of rejuvenizing themselves. Look at Predator and Alien. Even if you want to put them in horror sci-fi, horror action, they've been able to rejuvenate themselves as far as comeback franchises, and been able to add some fresh flavor to them. So y'all let me know how y'all feel about Final Destination Bloodlines. Once again, I know I'm late. And also make sure y'all come through tonight. We're going to be live for the remix was better than the original hip-hop and R&B tournament. Other than that, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and make sure you hit that notification bell if you know when I upload new videos. We out.